into Chelsea currently. As a fan, Tad, how are you feeling at the minute?
Constant dread and terror. I love the squad, but I'm afraid anytime Sanchez had to save anything, I feel really optimistic. Like the core of the squad is good. Obviously, like Palmer's amazing. We're going to shift some people in the summer. We're going to keep, Jackson's going to improve, and like we got Maresca, the Enzos, and Caicedo. We've got a great core. We just got to get rid of some people, get a new striker in, get a new keeper in, and just up the Chelsea.
Were you surprised, Jason, the way that this has all come about and the way it's happened and the way Chelsea has evolved?
Look, what happened when Putin decided to go to war, the football club's history changed forever on that particular day. And it's never happened. It's unprecedented what happened. The club was sanctioned. I was working at the club. I didn't have a contract. I was working freelance, therefore my work stopped. The club couldn't work in terms of the hotel, the shops, nothing. Chelsea were ground to a halt by the government. And it was put into such a situation that I didn't know where the club was going to go. I was in constant contact with journos that knew the situation, were saying to me, Jason, don't worry, this will come out in the end. And then, of course, the club had to be sold, and it was rushed. The sale of the club was rushed. And I think we've seen mistakes that we've made because the purchase sale had to be made at a certain time. The transfer window was open. The club then had players that had already left on free transfers. Christensen left. Rudiger left on free transfers. Players left. They had to be then replaced. And I think there was a lot of mistakes that were made. Koulibaly came in, Sterling came in, Aubameyang came in. And at that particular time, I think the club were going in a direction where they're saying, we need a bit of experience. And then after that transfer window, things changed. They then went young. They've gone now young players, buying potential, buying that group of players, which has continued. And unfortunately, I don't think we're going to see whether this is a real working thing for another 2, 3, maybe 4 years.
Yeah.
That's something you all agree with?
Honestly, I think the worst thing that came out of the whole, Ukraine situation was getting Mudryk. But like, apart from that, I don't honestly. I don't know what happens next. I think it's great playing the whole money ball thing, trying to get a bunch of young players, treating them like assets, see which one works out. But there's going to be quite a lot that don't, and a lot of them don't have the incentive of like, if I don't perform, I'm going to leave the club. And so, I don't know how it ends up working out, man.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by what happens with the manager.
Yeah.
Because they seem to.
Chelsea manager.
They seem to.
Yeah, which one?
They seem to have put in a manager that is a yes man. Yeah. They seem to have found a manager who's gone, we're going to sign these players and you will use them. Whereas other managers have gone, oh, I'm not doing that. Yeah. And that isn't what Mourinho did. Mourinho, I'm assuming, chose the players that he wanted. And made it work.
Just pay.
Yeah, and so I think that's absolutely key. And, can Cole Palmer become a Ballon d'Or winner? If he does, he's that good. I think he's that good a player. And if he does, then he's going to drive that young squad to success.
Yeah. I think we're waiting to see how this plays out. There's buying potential. The word potential is exactly what it says it is. Yeah. It hasn't realised what it is yet. You're buying potential. And as I made a point a couple of seconds ago, we might not know for 2, 3, 4 years' time what this looks like. The problem we've got in between that, what does that look like? And I've seen some players you look at and go, wow, they look like there's going to be some real encouraging signs. But I've seen us win things with Thiago Silva, Azpilicueta, Kovacic, and N'Golo Kante. Those players that won us the Champions League back in 2021. Those players don't exist at the football club right now. And you've got Levo Colway, you've got Dizazi, you've got all these other centre halves that are learning on the job. Reece James, one of our most experienced players, fingers crossed he stays fit for the rest of the season. Caicedo, probably our best performer this season. He's still young, so they're still learning on the job. And there's part of it I'm really excited about. There's a part of it I kind of fear that we might not have the experience to get us through those tough games.
Are the fans behind Maresca? Yeah. Are you see the indifference in the room?
Yeah, it was a bit of a pause.
He's doing a good job. He's doing a good job.
Yeah.
He's doing a good job. I think we don't have any leaders in their team. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And he's a damn sight better than Coventry.
Yeah.
A damn sight better. The football might not be as we want it to be because we all think back to Lampard, Hazard, Terry, Cech, and have that central spine that I don't care. You could bring a dragon onto the pitch and they're not getting through Chelsea. We don't have that central spine anymore. We don't. So, but no, I trust Maresca. I think he can bring it round.
I do find it really interesting though that Jason made a comment on TalkSport this week about John Terry becoming manager. We can't give up on the Maresca project.
No, see, it's amazing, right? I was asked the question. I didn't say should he or will he be. I was asked the question, potentially could he be Chelsea manager one day, and I said the vast majority of Chelsea fans would love it one day if that's the case. I'm not saying now. It's amazing how social media just kills you. Isn't it amazing?
Out of context.
Isn't it
Jason,
amazing?
why do you want John Terry to step in tomorrow as Chelsea manager? It's unbelievable you said that.
There you go, right?
Yes.
No, that was not what I was asked. I was asked, John Terry was on TalkSport that particular morning,
Yeah, he was.
and he spoke about it, and I was asked the question.
He turned up in full Chelsea manager kit.
JT.
Long coat on the lot. He was there. He was a little clipboard with him, tactics board.
Very good.
That's why you're like, yes, you're in. I mean, it was the knee that forced you to retire. I mean, that must have been. When did you know? Or did you know?
I was at Pompey at the time, and the knee wasn't great. I spoke to a surgeon, had the operation done, and he said to me after the operation, "This is the surgeon. Not quite sure you're going to get back from this one." And when I hear that after the operation, you do think, right, okay. And I was only 29 at the time, so. And you've got to think about life after football, in which case I kind of fell in. I went back to Chelsea's academy and coached there for 2.5 years, and I loved it there. And then media, TalkSport, Chelsea TV, that took over, and eventually I had to make my choice. And I think 20 years later, it was fair to say I made the right call.
I think your generation of footballers are really interesting, actually, because a lot of the time now you're talking about players who you are as good as, if not better than, when you were playing. Except the players now are on such massive wages. There's so much money in the game. And also, your knee could probably have been fixed these days, So because of all those advances and financial benefits and all those sort of things, you might not have had to retire. Or if you did retire, you'd have had... So what I mean, my point is...
Please get to it.
Yeah, my point is... My point is, it's really impressive the way you deal with players now, and there's no bitterness. I've never seen a minute of bitterness.
No.
From you, Jason.
No. I'm not one of those bitter ex-players. I turned when I retired, I couldn't watch football for a year because I felt so let down. But eventually, I come back to it. I've listened with ex-players that are bitter. I've heard them speak and I've worked with them. There is nothing more painful to watch and speak to an ex-player that's bitter about their career and having a jealousy about the money these players earn now. I will absolutely defend every player now, even if it's my club or not, about earning the most money they can, because the clubs will do the best for them. And everyone says about loyalty in football, there is no loyalty in football. You pay for loyalty. You pay for loyalty in a contract. You ask X amount of managers what the loyalty is when they've got 2.5 years left in their contract. Sean Dyche gets, there's no loyalty. And the sooner you know that, the sooner you grasp that, the better you are in dealing with how your career went. I'm not bitter about my career. I could be and was for a period, but I'm not. You're absolutely right. I defend every single player right now and earn them as much as you can, because it can end like that.